Hey everybody, this is Wendy at the Broken Needle Quilt Shop in Bunn, North Carolina. And this is a sampler quilt that I designed called For the Birds. This is going to be an 8-part series of videos that will walk you through how to create each block individually, step by step. So let's get started. So block number 2 is called Flock, and you will need 1 5 7/8 dark fabric, 1 5 7/8 light fabric square, and you will also need, for these parts here, you'll need 4 3 3/8 squares for this color and 4 3 3/8 squares of blue. First we need to make 8 half square triangles. And there's 2 different ways to do this. One is to take a square and cut it in half from point to point diagonally, and do the same with the other square, which is the blue. So if you do it this way, you just put them right sides together, and then we're going to go to the sewing machine and sew a 1/4 inch seam. And I'm going to do that with these 2 first, and then show you a different way to do it. Line up your points of your triangles, and then use a 1/4 inch seam and sew them together. Now we're gonna set our seam, and doing this relaxes the fibers in the thread and the fibers in the fabric itself, and helps the blocks to lay flat. So we're going to press towards the dark. Use some best press. And make sure to press. Don't iron side to side. Now I have 2 half square triangles, and need to square these up. These should be cut to 3 inches. Set this on, make sure your diagonal line is running through the seam diagonally here, and you'll just be cutting off mostly the dog ears. If you're accurate, you will just need to take a little bit off the top and the bottom and rotate and do the same. Now we can match up 3 inches since we just cut the sides, and just a little bit here, and then do the same with this one. Now, a more simple way to do that is to take our squares, and we're going to put the lighter one, usually, well, you can probably see it on the back of this one. Sometimes when you have a dark fabric, the back side is actually dark and you can't see through it, especially if it's a batik or something like that. It doesn't have a right side or a wrong side. But I'm going to take these light yellow squares, turn them over, and use a magic wand, or you can use another tool, and a friction pin. And if you watched the first video, we did the same thing. We're going to line up the magic wand on the corners here, and make a mark. And then put put them right sides together. Go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew just a little bit on the inside of the line. You can sew directly on the line, but I like to give myself a little bit more room by sewing just inside the line here. Now we can turn it around. We've already sewn this one. So now we're going to sew this line. Now this time, all we need to do is cut them in half, corner to corner. Now I have 2 of them. Need to press them, and we're going to trim them again, and then we will have 4 half square triangles. Now you should have 8 half square triangle blocks made, and now we need to make these half square triangle blocks. So we're going to take the lighter one, and I'm going to do the same. We'll use my magic wand, draw a line with the friction pin on either side. Speaking of the friction pin, much debate on that, if it will disappear or not disappear. Well, they're not going to be going to Alaska anytime soon, so I'm not really concerned about that. However, if you're using a friction pin to draw a line and then you're going to sew on it or cut it off, it's not going to be part of your quilt anyway. So yes, I would say go for it. Use the friction pin, and then once I sew this, I can iron it away on the back side. Line up your corners and sew either on the line or to the left of the line, like I do. As you can see, this is a very simple block, but it turns out really neat in a quilt. If you want to use this same block over and over, you can make a quilt with a cool design just by turning the blocks different ways and make a whole quilt in a day. Now we're going to cut this in half from corner to corner. If I can pick this up. Yeah. And then, like I said, got my red friction pin, and I iron it, and it's gone. If I put it in the freezer, it might come back. At least that's what I've been told. However, if it's on the stitches that I just made, what does it matter? So we're going to press to the dark side. As you saw, I just set the seam, so I finger press this. Hit it with some best press. Put this on the diagonal on the seam, and this one should be squared up to 5.5 inches. 5.5. So now we'll take these to the sewing machine and put them together. Now I have this block laid out in the way that I want to sew it together. Makes it more simple for me, so I'm going to put these right sides together, and I'm going to sew these together, and I'm going to chain piece it together. So I'm also going to sew this section together. So you want to put them all right sides together. All of your half square triangles should be right sides together, and use a 1/4 inch seam. Now they're all chained together. I'm going to use the cutting gizmo. This has a little razor blade so that you can cut your chain pieces apart quickly. So now that I have them laid out, we want to nest these together. So I'm going to press this seam to the right, and this one will be going to the left. So now once I have them done, pressed in opposite directions, I'm going to flip them right sides together, and this is where we're going to nest the seams. See, they're in opposite directions, so I can kiss them together. Line this up, and I'm going to take a needle, a pin or a needle, but you know what I mean. So put it in the stitches here and right out the other side, and then just put it in as at an angle so it'll lay nice and flat. That way, if you were to put it in like this, come out the back side, oops, stitches there, and you try to go like this, it's going to be harder to get inside, plus it's going to make everything bunched up and bubbly like that, so we want it to lay more flat, or as flat as possible. So if you put it in at an angle, it will lay nice and flat for you to sew. 1/4 inch seam. Pull out your pin. And now we're going to press this one. As in the other video, if you play with your seams and see which way they want to go, this one you can press them in opposite directions, and then your block will lay flatter. Sometimes that one thread right there, if you're very careful, you can pop the thread. Actually, better to use a seam ripper. But be careful when you do that. You don't want to cut all the way through, and then you see it'll lay nice and flat. Setting the seams on this side, and then I'm going to flip it over, and look at the beautiful, pretty half square triangles. Best press. And I need to make one more, so I'll show you again. Press in opposite directions. Place them right sides together. Nest your seams. Is here. And right out the other side. Perfecto. Put it in at an angle. Lays nice and flat. And we're going to do a 1/4 inch seam. when you press your seams in opposite directions like that, you can see it looks just like the front. A little quilt block that looks just like the front. You got your little half square triangles that mimic the whole front side. All right, now we have a half square triangle block there and a half square triangle block here. And all we got to do is put these with these. So let's go do that. See how quick this block is? Put these two right sides together. And you remember we squared everything up. So these would be 5.5 and 5.5. Now we have it laid out, and we're going to do exactly what we did with these. We're going to press the seams in opposite directions. Now place them right sides together. Nest your seams and get a pin and put it in. My finger is in the way. There you go. Try that again. Ouch. Now you'll notice this block is getting wider, bigger. So one thing I want to say about pinning, if you have a big quilt or you're starting to get bigger and bigger, you may want to add more pins so that everything will stay nice and flat and stay in place. If you don't use pins, you may be sewing thinking you're doing fine, and then it gets askew and you're on the back, it'll be like this. So you want to make sure everything's nice and flat and pinned together with pins. Until one day you might get really comfortable and you don't need to do that, but you know, sometimes I'm comfortable and sometimes I'm not. So sometimes I pin and sometimes I don't. Quarter-inch seam. Let's see, we can pop that seam, push them in opposite directions. If you're not sure, if you try to go this way, it doesn't want to go this way, so you can go back and forth and find where it wants to lay. Use this seam ripper again, just so I can get that to lay nice and flat. Sometimes there's a stitch right there that you can pull. So press our little square, and again, if you notice, this should look somewhat like the one on the front. Got your little half square triangles there. Flip it over and best press. Oops. Ta-da! Flock complete!